All right. I really didn't want to cover this. It was in the news yesterday, and I skipped over it. The only reason why I'm covering it now because there's been a juxtaposition in the story. The annual Israel parade in New York City happened over the weekend, and I wasn't even going to cover it. It's just like whatever, in one door, out the other. And then I saw today Mamdani is getting attacked. Now, he skipped the parade. He skipped the annual Israel parade. And oh my gosh, you'd think he kicked a puppy. You'd think that Mamdani came out here and put a grandma in a chokehold because he skipped the Israel Day parade. My goodness. My goodness gracious. The worst offense, really. It's not supporting Israel as the most important country on earth, not supporting Israel as your own, not supporting Israel as your master. It's the worst offense you can do in American politics. So here come the attacks on Mamdani today for not attending the Israel Day parade. And again, I might have just passed it off. I might have just said, whatever, just more political commentary. Oh, Mamdani's bad. We need a story, right? We need a story. He didn't go to the parade. My goodness. It's like, okay, And then there was this from Randy Fine. And this one put me over the top. From Randy Fine. The barbarians are inside the gates. And he has a picture of the Twin Towers on 9/11 next to Mamdani. So that was it. I said, okay, fine. If this is where we're going to go, I'll go there. And maybe it's worth saying for if you're a new listener, new audience of the Owen Report here, you're just finding my work and you like it, you need to know that part of my instincts here as a broadcaster, part of my instincts here in politics is to counter propaganda. So it doesn't matter what direction it's coming from, where it's coming from, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. My instinct here, my drive here is to counter propaganda no matter what. So this is just so heavy with propaganda. That's why I felt I had to cover it. Otherwise, I would have ignored the Israel Day parade. It's too much. So what are we thinking about September 11th? Because to me, and I always predicted this, and I've been saying it for years, the foreign policy discussion is eventually going to get back to 9/11 because eventually the Israeli lobby and eventually the Israeli loyalists like Randy Fine, they're going to run out of ground. There's not going to be much political ground left for them to stand on, except it's going to be hate Muslims because of 9/11. Ultimately, the Israeli lobby and the Israeli loyalists involved in American politics will all eventually be isolated on the island of, but Muslims are bad, 9/11. That's the only ground they're going to be relegated to in a very short period of time. And that's why it's always been important to me to talk about how we were lied to about 9/11. But I don't want to get into that. Let's address what Randy Fine is saying here. So he says the barbarians are in the gates because Mamdani is Muslim and Muslims did 9/11. The barbarians are inside the gates, he says. And of course, the only reason that Randy Fine is really electing to attack Mamdani today is because he skipped the Israel Day parade. Now, for those taking notes at home, because this might be confusing to you, but to those taking notes at home, Israel is a foreign country. So keep that in mind. Jot that down in your notebook here. Israel is a foreign country. Mamdani is the mayor of New York City, a city in the state of New York, in the country of the United States of America. So Mamdani is an American who serves the American city of New York. So if he doesn't want to attend a parade for a foreign country, shouldn't be that controversial, but for some reason it is because it's Israel. But that is a foreign country. So that's why Randy Fine is attacking him. But who are the barbarians? And this is where they really run into the issue. This is where the Israeli lobby and the Israeli loyalists run into the issue. It was a lot easier to trick and deceive people 20 years ago. And if you want to get specific when it comes to Muslims and Jews here, and the Jews have always had the leverage in Western media. The Jews have always had the edge in Western media. And you could successfully argue that the Jews have convinced most Westerners that Muslims are the most evil force in the world and they want you to die just because you're not Muslim. Now, you might believe that, you might not. But the point is, that has been a successful campaign that the Israeli lobby has waged against the American people through American politics and through the American media. Now, it's a lot easier to convince Americans of this before the age of social media. So it's a lot easier to say, oh, the barbarians are inside of the gates, and you just, oh, that's Muslims, that's 9/11. It's a lot easier to get away with that. But now that we have social media, and there's X, and there's TikTok, and those are the main two factors, but there's all kinds of different outlets now. And notice what happened with X and what happened with TikTok, the two main platforms where Israel's actions in Palestine and Lebanon were being recorded and broadcasted and published. Notice how the Israeli lobby has done everything they possibly can to get access to control and censor those two platforms. So now, when Israeli loyalists like Randy Fine say the barbarians are inside of the gates, unfortunately, that doesn't just stick to Muslims now. Anybody that promotes Israel is now viewed as even more of a barbarian than Muslims. And if you don't believe the official narrative of 9/11, then there's really no comparison at all. There's none. And so this is where they're running into an issue. They're running into an issue because people don't believe the official narrative of 9/11. And they're running into an issue because we've all watched what Israel has done in the last couple of years in Palestine and in Lebanon, and really all over the world, but specifically in those two regions with the killing of hundreds of thousands of innocent people, including women and children. So it doesn't really work now when the Israel side of the table points the finger at Muslim and says, you're barbarians. The Muslims are the barbarians. Iranians are the barbarians. These are all barbarians. Well, you guys are barbarians. Everybody's watching your barbaric behavior, and it's being highlighted and broadcasted to the world unlike anything we've ever seen. And so there's this disconnect where they still think that their anti-Islam propaganda has a control over the hearts and minds of Americans. It doesn't anymore. They're still under the impression that you are completely brainwashed and convinced that every Muslim wants you dead because you're not Muslim. That doesn't work anymore. And even if there's plenty of Americans out there that want nothing to do with Islam and they don't want Islam here, telling them that, hey, they're barbarians and you're waving an Israeli flag, ooh, sorry, you look like the bigger barbarian there. That's one barbarian calling another a barbarian. That doesn't affect us anymore. So this is their big disconnect. We don't trust the official narrative of 9/11, and we've all watched the behavior, the barbaric behavior of Israel for the last couple of years. These things don't work on us anymore. And here's where it gets obnoxious. So you have this Israel Day parade in New York City. It's been going on forever, whatever. But they run around and they wave Israeli flags and they're all dancing around. This is our country. This is America. And yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and say it because this is how people feel about it. This is the most arrogant and entitled and, quite frankly, conquering display we've ever seen. And they